The AFC West is now the best division in the entire AFC and actually has a real case to be the best division in the NFL as a whole. And we head into 2025 with some real polarity and some real, just absolute opportunity in this division. Last year, the Kansas City Chiefs won this division at 15-2. The Chargers finished 11-6, earning themselves a playoff spot, as did the Denver Broncos with a record of 10-7. And the Las Vegas Raiders were kind of unwatchable at 4-13. Today is the beginning of my NFL division preview series, 8 divisions over the course of 4 weeks where I give you my official 2025 predictions. Today, we are talking AFC West football. Let's get into the video. Finishing in 4th place at a record of 8-9, I have the Las Vegas Raiders, and they will be missing the playoffs. The Raiders are a popular pick to take a pretty big leap in 2025, and some people even have them going to the playoffs. While I don't see that being the jump that the Las Vegas Raiders take, I do think that this will be a very competitive team, a very fun team, and hell, maybe if they weren't in the AFC West, they could even be a playoff team. This is a team that had a lot of problems last year, knew it, and invested in change. They brought in new faces like Geno Smith, Pete Carroll, drafted an Ashton Genty. This is an organization that recognized the flaws that they had and really made a big effort to turn things around in 2025. And while I don't have them in the playoffs, I do think that this is an improving Raiders team and an improving Raiders organization. When it comes to the Raiders offense in 2025, I think it'll be one of the most entertaining to watch in all of football. They massively upgraded the quarterback position, bringing in Geno Smith, who, wherever you have him in your quarterback rankings, there's no denying. Geno's got all the makings of a fun quarterback to watch. A decent arm, solid mobility, and a guy that's just ready to let it rip at all times. He also is pretty clutch, making some big plays down the stretch for Seattle multiple times over the past few years. He was well brought in Ashton Genty, who was the clear-cut best running back in this draft class. You could say he was the clear-cut best player in this draft class ultimately. What he did at Boise State last year is Adrian Peterson-esque in terms of just the pure yardage and touchdown volume that he had. And yeah, I hear you. It's not Big Ten and it's not SEC. I don't care. When you were that dominant at the D1 level, you were absolutely going to be a dominant NFL player as well. And then when you look at the receiving core, man, Jacoby Myers, Jack Betch, the rookie that they drafted, who I think has promising upside, and of course, potentially the best tight end in football, Brock Bowers. That is a very, very solid offensive core for the Las Vegas Raiders. And their offensive line is kind of a mixed bag. I'm excited to see what JPJ does at center for them this year. As an Oregon Ducks fan, I'm rooting for the best for him. And unfortunately, the team did bring in Alex Kappa as too, which does feel like subtraction by addition. Is the mathing on that? I don't know. Anyways, at the end of the day, I'm excited to watch this Raiders offense in 2025. I think that it's going to be a very similar offense to the Atlanta Falcons, to the Philadelphia Eagles, in the sense of the running back is the engine that drives the car. And we've seen many successful teams with this method, so don't tell me it can't be done. We watched Saquon drive the engine for Philly last year to a Super Bowl trophy. 2 years ago, Christian McCaffrey was the engine of the car that led the 49ers to the Super Bowl. Your quarterback can have very competent play, but if the running back's the focal point of the offense, you can have ginormous success. And I'm not afraid to say it. I think Ashton Genty, by the end of his rookie season, could already be looked at as a top 5 running back in the entire sport. He has everything from speed, strength, receiving ability, you name it. This is a franchise player. Now, I gotta be honest, Raiders fans, your defense worries me and is the main reason that I have your team missing the playoffs and finishing with a losing record in 2025. The strength of the team is meant to be the defensive line, and Max Crosby absolutely has Defensive Player of the Year potential. But you just dropped Christian Wilkins, who clearly was dealing with a major injury, so either way, you weren't going to have him for this year. And Malcolm Kuntz is coming off of a torn ACL. I'm just not sure this defensive line can hold up for what it needs to do for the back 7. You added Jeremy Chin and Eric Stokes, but you lost guys like Jack Jones, Nate Hobbs, Trevor Moehrig, and Robert Spillane. There was just a lot of turnover in this secondary, and I think it's going to take another offseason and another draft to really get it to a respectable point where I think the Raiders can compete in an AFC West. We'll see what Pete Carroll has up his sleeve. Obviously, he's created good defenses in the past, and maybe he can surprise us. And there's some names on the depth chart that are going to emerge as stars that I'm not seeing at this point in time. But ultimately, I do think that the defense will be the downfall of this team, in the 2025 season. While in 2025, the Raiders will be fun and competitive week to week, I just don't think they have enough talent to edge out any of these teams in the AFC West to finish any higher than 4th place. But we'll see what Pete Carroll could do development-wise, and I'll be damn sure to be turned in every single week to watch Ashton Genty and Brock Bowers. Finishing in 3rd place with a record of 10-7, earning themselves the 6th seed in the playoffs in the AFC, I have the Los Angeles Chargers. In 2025, I have the Chargers staying about neutral in terms of wins and just overall talent on the roster. But I do think that this team took a lateral step to the right that really could build a Super Bowl window for 2026 and beyond. This team moved off of their more expensive, some of their veteran defensive players, and invested in some young offensive talent. That is what this team was missing last year. You go back to that playoff game versus Houston, and Justin Herbert absolutely did not have a good game, and his play wasn't excusable. But when you look at what his options were and who his weapons were, the number one guy was a rookie Lad McConkey. There was no run game. It wasn't a two-dimensional offense, and the other options on the outside were Quentin Johnston and some guys. The Chargers put a step in the right direction to developing this offense, along with investing in their young defensive talent that I really think could pan out not just in 2025, but take them to the next level in 2026 and beyond. Talking about that Chargers offense, of course, we have to start with Justin Herbert, who no doubt is one of the more talented quarterbacks in the NFL. And again, I've said this before, but I'll say it again. You want to build a quarterback in a factory? He might come out looking just like Justin Herbert. Size, arm strength, arm talent, speed, mobility. Justin Herbert has everything that you need for a winning quarterback. Now, Chargers fans, don't hate me, but I am starting to question if this guy has the makings of being a playoff performer or if the big moment is too big for him. We've seen him struggle in the second half versus Jacksonville, and then, of course, versus Houston this year. Now, I'm not one of those people that's ready to write off Justin Herbert as a playoff choker or a loser at this point in time, but my radar is on, and I do want to see Justin Herbert back in the playoffs this year. And I'm not even telling you that the Chargers have to win the game based on who they're playing, but they have to be competitive in that environment. We'll see if Justin Herbert could do that this year. The Chargers certainly tried to give him more options to yield a high success offense. Let's talk about the running backs. Omarion Hampton, a rookie first-round pick, the guy that I thought was closer to Ashton Genty as a prospect than given credit for, a guy who when I watch, I see Le'Veon Bell. He's patient. He's excellent in the receiving game. He's not going to kill you with his breakaway speed, but he can get chunk plays here and there. He has all the makings to be a 3-down, everything you need at running back. And then the team brought in Najee Harris, who I am starting to have a little bit of concerns over the eye injury, but assuming he's good to go and assuming he plays, is a great secondary back to Omarion Hampton. And these guys do have a bit of like an elusive receiving back next to a power back that's, going to be able to score in the red zone vibe to it. It is a good running back duo, and it should combined make the Chargers run game better than what it was last year, especially when you consider Greg Roman and what he could do in the running game. And then when you look at the receiving game, don't get me wrong, it's not the going right to your mama receiving room that some other teams have, but it is better. Lad McConkey going into year 2 should have improvement, and he was already one of the better players in the NFL last year. They drafted Trey Harris, who was top 5 in terms of wide receivers on my board. I love this pick. I think he's got size. I think he's got speed. I think he can go up and get a 50-50 ball. And I think playing with Justin Herbert, we'll see more of him unlocked. He's going from Jackson Dart, who's not starting in the New York Giants behind Russell Wilson, to Justin Herbert, who's a top 10 quarterback in the NFL. Trey Harris will certainly show flashes. Quentin Johnston moves to a much more respectable wide receiver 3 role. I like Keandre Lambert-Smith as a 4. You got a solid tight end room there as well. But the number one thing that you got to talk about on this offense that isn't Justin Herbert is the offensive line. This is a top 10 offensive line in football, and Jim Harbaugh knows you win games in the trenches, and the Chargers are certainly going to make a push to do that. A top 10 PFF ranked offensive line, and for my money, it is the best tackle duo in the NFL over the next 5 years. Rashawn Slater, who was just extended on a 4-year, $114 million deal, feels like a steal. Joe Alt, former, top 5 pick for the Chargers? I think he was a top 5 pick. You bring in Mekhi Becton. This is an excellent offensive line. Going to be great in the run game, but going to be even better at keeping Justin Herbert upright. And like I mentioned, for the defense, this unit invested in the youth. And to me, this has an LA Rams of last year trajectory, where maybe you see some struggling early on and some guys finding their way. But at the end of the season, if this defense finds its stride, they could be really scary come playoff time. You have your vets, Khalil Mack and Derwin James, who will be leaders on this defense. But then you have young stubs and Cam Hart, Tarheeb Steele, and Junior Colson that I think are going to be franchise defensive cornerstones for this Chargers team going forward. All in all, in 2025, while I think the record and even some of the stats are going to look like the Chargers didn't take a step forward, they put themselves on a better course to compete for Super Bowls over the next decade, in my estimation. Are you really willing to bet against the combo of Justin Herbert and Jim Harbaugh? That's something you have to ask yourself. Me, I'm not willing to bet against it in the long run. And hell, they might even beat my projection of 10 wins this year if those guys are just that damn good. They beat it last year. Finishing in second place in the AFC West, I have the Kansas City Chiefs with a 10-7 record, earning themselves the 5th seed in the AFC. Before we hop into Kansas City Chiefs talk, remember to hit that subscribe button if you love the NFL. We're going to be doing all 8 divisions throughout the next 4 weeks, as well as a ton of other great NFL content I'm sure you'll love. Let's get back to the video. All right, I know. Picking the Chiefs to not win this division at this point just feels like a fool's media trope that everybody's going to go through one time or another. Whether it's they're convincing themselves that the Chiefs aren't going to win this division because they're just tired of seeing it, or whether it's because they're rage baiting for clicks. I understand, and I get it, Chiefs fans, if you're looking at me like sideways saying, what the hell is this guy talking about? I really truly believe this is the year Kansas City takes a step back. Am I perhaps on that left side of guys that's like, it's your turn to fall for the mistake, buddy? Kansas City wins, LOL. You know what? Maybe, but I'm willing to take that risk this year. And I do think that there are some reasons that Kansas City may pull back in the regular season. When I look at last year's Chiefs, they were 15-2, but I think even Chiefs fans will tell you they were not a dominant 15-2 team. This is a team last year that was 11-1 in one-score games. And while I'm not going to bet against Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid in every one-score game, there is going to be some return to the mean for this team, but I think they might drop more of those games this year than they did last year, as well as I feel like this is a bit of a transitional year in terms of talent and style of play for Kansas City. When we look at the offense, obviously you think the same thing that you've always thought with Kansas City's offense. Mahomes, Kelsey, Andy Reid. This is going to be a good unit. And while I'm not willing to bet against Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid, we did see a bit of regression from Travis Kelsey last year, his first season in a long time under 1,000 yards. And I'm just wondering, he lacked a little bit of explosiveness. Are we going to see another step back this year? And if so, can Kansas City truly afford it? Because they're going to be dealing with what right now is unknown, a suspension for their best wide receiver, Rashee Rice. So in terms of how undynamic at times the Chiefs offense looked last year and how they were just kind of doing just enough to win games, the offense is going to have to perform at that level again. And that doesn't leave a lot of room for mistakes, and that doesn't leave a lot of room for teams that are more dynamic than you to beat up on you. We did see Kansas City struggle from time to time against teams that you wouldn't think that they struggled against. That game with the Carolina Panthers was a lot closer than it would have been if you had talked about the Kansas City Chiefs at full strength. My point being, without Rashee Rice, the offense is going to struggle a bit. Now, it's not to say that they don't have weapons. Second-year wideout Xavier Worthy, Hollywood Brown should be healthy, Isaiah Pacheco starting the season healthy, and you still brought back Kareem Hunt. That is a good offensive weapons core. The one concern that I do have that I'm not sure will be solved this season, because yeah, Rashee Rice will be back inevitably, and the receiving core will be very strong, in my opinion, the best in the division. The offensive line. It is the 20th ranked offensive line per PFF. They lost veteran Joe Thuney. And yes, this is a team that drafted Josh Simmons, and I know Chiefs fans are very excited about him. And I get it, man. If I was a Chiefs fan and we got Josh Simmons at 32, it's an auto pick for me as well. But this is a guy with a bit of an injury history. We don't know how effective he is at the NFL level. And is he going to be better than Joe Thuney immediately? Because Joe Thuney was playing for this team last year at left tackle. Is Josh Simmons year one going to be better than him? I'm not sure, but he kind of has to be. We saw that the Kansas City Chiefs, the way to beat them was sniffed out. Against a good pass rush, they will struggle. They struggled in the Super Bowl, and they could struggle throughout the regular season if teams have the bodies to man up with them, which, without a Rashee Rice, could very well be the truth. The Kansas City Chiefs offensive line, have no doubt about it. This will be the swing factor for this team in 2025. And then we look at the defense, and the defense is pretty solid, but it does hinge on the back of a few great players. Chris Jones again, Trent McDuffie, Nick Bolton, and to an extent, George Karlaftis. And don't get me wrong, this is a very solid defensive unit. I don't want to feel like I'm miscrediting it based on what I said early on. But this is a defensive unit that really can't afford an injury to Chris Jones. there is no next man up for this team if Chris Jones gets hurt. He is the anchor of this defense. He provides everything that you need on the line, on the outside, on the inside. He certainly could be a defensive player of the year candidate. And in a big game, in a big spot, is there anybody you'd rather calling your defense than Steve Spagnuolo? I'm just not sure if I would say yes to that question. And for Chiefs fans that made it this far, I get it. If you think that my 10-7 projection for you is too low and you want to tell me why I'm wrong in the comment section, you'll have all this data and facts to back you up. Absolutely. And this team, because it's Kansas City, because it's the Chiefs, and they just find a way with voodoo black magic to win football games at this point in time, they'll probably win 13 games. People could come back to this video and be like, LOL, Chiefs to win 10 games, unreal. But I do want to get one thing straight. Whether Kansas City wins 10 games and sneaks in as a wild card team, or whether they go back-to-back 15 games and are the 1 seed again, no matter what round, no matter what opponent, Kansas City is still the fucking boogeyman when it comes to the AFC playoffs. And then, of course, finishing in first place in the AFC West with an 11-6 record and the 4th seed in the playoffs, I have the Denver Broncos. So the Denver Broncos are clearly a team that I am very high on. I have them winning the AFC West over Kansas City and over the Los Angeles Chargers, who are teams that people are picking to win this division. Why Denver? To be quite frank, top to bottom, they have a fantastic roster. I don't know if there's any holes on the roster, truthfully. And I think top to bottom, it's the best roster in this division. Now, obviously, you start valuing in quarterbacks, and I'm not sitting here telling you Bo Nix is better than Patrick Mahomes. Don't hear what I'm not saying there. But Denver as a whole, the roster is excellent. They, in my estimation, have the best defense in football. They have a top-tier offensive line. Bo Nix is a top 16 quarterback in football. Sean Payton is a top 10 head coach in football. There's just not really a weak spot you could attack with this team. And we started to see part of this as we finished up last season. Over their last 7 games, they were 5-2. They were finding themselves. They were building momentum. They were winning football games. They were having a competitive first half with Buffalo in a playoff game in Buffalo. And I think everything that Denver took from last year, that they learned, that they got better, will only translate to a better 2025. So let's talk about the offense, and where do we start? But other than Bo Nix. Bo Nix is coming off of a very productive rookie season. 3,775 passing yards and 29 passing touchdowns. That is, in some years, Rookie of the Year numbers. Jaden Daniels obviously did his damn thing in Washington, and I'm not trying to take the award away from him, but I'm saying Bo Nix had a really, really freaking good rookie season, man. And if you were a Broncos fan, this guy got better as the year went on. What you saw from him in the second half of the year, the way he played, the way he was winning football games, showing off his arm talent, his mobility, everything that is there with Bo Nix has to make you even more inspired as we head into 2025. And I think that the team's front office did a good job of putting a better offense around Bo Nix to make him even more successful in this season. They brought in some major running back room upgrades with J.K. Dobbins from free agency and R.J. Harvey from the draft. I've been saying it since that's happened, but this is Sean Payton's new Mark Ingram and Pierre Thomas. This is going to be a two-dimensional offense for Denver, which I don't think you could have said all last year with their running back room. The receiving options. Courtland Sutton's a stud, one of the more underrated wide receivers in football. I like Mims. I like Troy Franklin. I like Evan Ingram. To be honest, in terms of weak spot for this team, a consistent receiving threat outside of Courtland Sutton may be that, but maybe one of the young guys steps up. Pat Bryant's been turning some heads at Broncos training camp, so, maybe they have a top 5 offensive line in football, number 2 ranked per PFF, so they're going to have, good run game in terms of protection for Bo Nix. It's going to be excellent. This is a very good unit, and in my estimation, a top 5 offensive mind in Sean Payton. This Broncos offense has all the tools to be successful in 2025. But even better than the offense is no doubt this team's defense. To me, it is flatly put the best defense in the NFL. Led the NFL in sacks last year, 8th ranked Pro Football Focus defensive line this year. If you're a Broncos fan, you could argue it's too low. Zach Allen and Nick Bonito, those are top 100 players in the league. Go let PFF know, not me. Pat Surtain is the reigning defensive player of the year at the cornerback position. And to me, the gap between Pat Surtain at 1 and anybody else is just as big as the gap between 2 and 5 when it comes to the cornerback position. Jahdae Barron from the draft might be a top 5 nickel in football already this season. You look at Dre Greenlaw as an addition. Hufanga. If you can keep Hufanga healthy in that secondary, you talk about a no-fly zone. This Broncos defense, if you love defense, is must-watch TV week to week, and they are going to make opposing offensive coordinators, opposing quarterbacks, opposing receivers, opposing running backs, opposing offensive lines life hell. You are going to lose sleep knowing you have a matchup with this Broncos defense. They will terrorize you. And listen, at the end of the day, when you have the best defense in football, an offense that improved, and an offensive system that Sean Payton has that has a high IQ quarterback in Bo Nix who could run it effectively. I expect the interceptions and turnovers to be down this year. I expect the touchdowns to be up. I'm thinking we're looking at about a 30 to 35 passing touchdown season from Bo Nix with under 10 interceptions. And this guy can absolutely lead this team to winning this division. You don't always have to be the best quarterback in your division to win the division. Look at the 49ers from a few years ago, Broncos fans. Matt Stafford's better than Brock Purdy, but Brock Purdy's team was better than Matthew Stafford, and Brock Purdy was good enough at his damn job to execute what Kyle Shanahan's game plan was. Bo Nix isn't better than Patrick Mahomes. Bo Nix's defense is better than Patrick Mahomes. Bo Nix's offense is better than Patrick Mahomes. And Sean Payton's got a good enough offensive scheme that if it is executed correctly, Denver can seriously have some real success. I have them 11-6, and I have them winning the AFC West. In recap, I have the Broncos winning this division at 11-6, the Chiefs finishing in second at 10-7, the Chargers finishing in third at 10-7, both of those teams making the playoffs, and then the Raiders in fourth at 8-9, missing out on playoff football. This will no doubt be one of the more competitive divisions in all of football. And it was really hard for me to pick a winner because when I start thinking about, man, am I really betting against Patrick Mahomes? It is a bit of a struggle. You know, Mahomes and Reed, that's the best quarterback head coach combo in football. And those are the two most important assets in football. But with what Denver has team-wise, I just couldn't pick against them over the course of a full regular season. Justin Herbert and Jim Harbaugh, I do think, are on the right track to future success for the Chargers. And the Raiders fans, I appreciate you if you made it this far. I think your team's going to be fun, but that defense needs another year to improve before I think they can compete with the top three teams in this division. As always, be sure to let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. How do you see the AFC West playing out in 2025? Make sure if you're not already subscribed to this channel and you love the NFL, hit that sub button. I'll catch you next time. Peace.